What's going on, YouTube and reefers out there everywhere? Welcome back to the second episode of my Creatures of the Shallow series. And today we're going to be talking about the lighting and the water flow on the system that I'm currently running, which is an SCA 50-gallon aquarium. Now, the lighting that you're about to see above the tank in this intro video isn't the lighting that I currently have on my system. I'm going to explain why I changed it and also tell if it's working for me or not at this current state. But before we get into that, let's talk about the flow. What I'm using for flow on this tank is 2PP4 by Jbao. It's a Chinese company, and their pumps, at least their wave makers and their return pumps, from my experience, work really great. Currently, these two pumps can handle up to 1,000 gallons per hour each. I have them running at about 500 to 600 gallons per hour. It's about halfway. And the reason why I'm doing that is because any more than that, I'm going to be blowing all the sand off the front of the tank towards the back, and it may be too much flow for the mixed reef that I'm trying to get. Now, as you can see, the top wave, it looks good to me. There's a lot of flow. I got a whole bunch of different corals, especially SPS, and everything is getting a whole lot of flow inside of the system. So it's all working out, and I'm going to keep it this way until I see that there's more flow demand. Another good part of the flow that I have is the actual return nozzles. If you look at the top down the middle, there are two return nozzles that are pushing out a lot of water. Now, the pump that I'm using for my return is a Jbao 6000. I showed that in my previous video, and it's only on one actual notch. It goes up to about 10, I believe, and I'm only using the first one, and that's plenty of flow for this system. Another thing that I have in the system and I think is helping the flow is actually the rock work, because it's not in any way stopping the flow from moving around it or through it, and I think that's important in a mixed reef or any reef tank altogether, because that stops any of the detritus that may build up, food that's not eaten, from settling at the bottom and making sure it gets over into the overflow, and so I can take it out of my tank. Lastly, I wanted to say that it's important that I keep the pumps pointed a little bit higher, because I want the SPS at the top of the tank and they can take more flow. If I decided to put the pumps lower in the actual display, it would move more to LPS, which I don't need moving, and that's just counterproductive to what I'm trying to do. So I always put the SPS coral at the top, and I put the other corals towards the middle and below that, so that the pumps don't destroy any flesh on the coral. So we're going to talk about the lighting that I have on the fixture on top of this tank next. The fixture you're looking at is a 4-bulb T5 fixture, 24-inch fixture. I think it's 23 inches by, I believe, 14 or 15 inches front to back. It's not really that big of a fixture. As you can see, it doesn't cover the whole top of the tank, but it does go across the whole tank. I also attached my Kessil 880s to it so that I can have a dusk to dawn effect, because as we all know, T5s don't really have that. All they do is cut on and cut off, unless you have a dimmable fixture or dimmable ballast, but I don't really mess with those type of things. I just try to cut it on, cut it off. Now, the growth that I'm getting out of this light is amazing. To be honest with you, I can't really see the difference between the growth with this light and the LEDs. Now, some people would say that it's only a 4-bulb fixture. You need 6 bulbs or 8 bulbs in order to grow coral effectively. But I believe that it's doing a great job in this tank. It's just not better than LEDs to me, to be honest. My goal for this tank actually though is to try every type of lighting. I tried LEDs, I saw what that was about. I'm trying T5s now. It's the T5's turn, and then eventually I believe I'm going to switch over to metal halide. What I think I'm going to end up doing is putting one metal halide fixture in the middle, maybe a 250 watt metal halide. Then I'll put 2 Blue Plus T5s on the outside, and then I'll have the Kessils next to the metal halide to do the dusk to dawn effect, and kind of like make sure that the lights are coming on and off, you know, with some sort of schedule or regularity, and it kind of gives you that LED, you know, everything. And I want to see the difference in coloration with the metal halides than the T5s and the LEDs. As of right now though, I can say this fixture is working really well. The bulbs that I have is a Blue Plus, Actinic, Blue Plus, and then Coral Plus in that order from front to back. So I have no complaints really about this fixture and the setup that I have for the lights right now. It's working well, it illuminates the whole tank, and honestly, it's doing great. So if you stuck with me this long, I just want to say thank you for sticking around. Thank you for joining me in my second episode. And there's going to be more to come. The next episode, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some pictures of the coral, names of the coral, the type of coral that I have in the system, and pretty much what my direction is to go with this tank. I did name it the Creatures of the Shallows. I haven't really shown why I named it that yet. It's kind of a surprise. I'm getting together the things that I want to put inside of the tank to make sure that it all looks the way that I want it to look and go the way that I want it to go. But all in all, I can honestly say this has been a very, very successful reef tank. The Cheato reactor that you've seen in the first episode is working really well. The lighting that I switched to is working really well. The corals are growing. I'm seeing growth on SPS, LPS. I found a good flow where everything's moving really well up top and down low. Everything is really subtle. It's not too strong of a current. I'm getting good coloration, so I can't complain about anything. My parameters, one thing I didn't mention in the last video, I like to keep my alkalinity between 9 and 9.5, or 9 and 10 I should say, but right now it's at 9.7. My calcium is at 460, my magnesium is at 1400. I don't measure phosphates and nitrates. I don't really care for that stuff because I'm sure there's some significance to it, but it hasn't really shown anything, I don't know. It just hasn't come to me as an issue as of yet. I do a 5-gallon water change every week, or maybe I'll do a 15-gallon water change every 2 weeks, depending on my schedule. But for the most part, it's been a 5-gallon water change, and everything's been doing well, so I'm not really worried about the phosphates and nitrates. All in all, it's been successful, and I hope you guys stick around for the next episode so that you can see what I have coming up and why I call this the Creatures of the Shallows.